Good. So then, just want to officially welcome everybody to our session today, to Spotlight on SALTO. And as I said, this has been a full month of online info sessions, 6 in total. And they were aimed at highlighting the various opportunities of the Erasmus Plus Youth and European Solidarity Core programs. And where we did our best, and hopefully you got the chance to learn more about the activities and the tools that the SALTO resource centers offer, and of course the humans, the teams behind all this work that is available here for you. So as I said, this is our last online session, and we are very happy to be here with you and to share this with you. If you are curious what we have been doing until now, we have recordings available on all the Facebook pages of the SALTO Resource Center. So if you are interested in a particular topic, you can check them out and find the recordings there. Today, we have the European training strategy in the spotlight with SALTO training and cooperation. And we will be exploring a lot of things. So what does training in youth work mean today? How can a European training strategy contribute to your professional development as a training provider, trainer, or a youth worker? What is there for you to explore and to use? We are going to start the session by building some connection, finding out some things about the people behind SALTO TC, SALTO Training and Cooperation, and also some things about you. We are very curious who is here with us in the room. We'll speak about the European training strategy and hopefully bring you some different perspectives on it and the ways in which you can use it. Then we are also going to explore some resources and opportunities available for you, and also dive deeper in one project that translates into practice many of the things that we are discussing today. As we go along, please write any questions that you have in the chat, because we will end the session with the questions and answers part. So please feel free to ask us anything, and we'll make space for it in the end. Good. So with this being said, just to introduce myself, my name is Dani, and I will be the facilitator of this meeting. And I'm joined by Michele, who you had the chance to meet already, who is our digital facilitator, but also by Vanda, who will be our graphic recorder. By the end of the session, she will produce a summary, a visual summary, a beautiful visual summary for our conversation today. Good. So with this being said, I know it's been a long week, a hot day. So let's take a moment to arrive at the meeting, just to really arrive here. And I will invite you all to perhaps take a deep breath, stretch your body for a second, give it some love. It's going to be here for an hour and a bit to listen, to contribute, stretch it a bit. Oh, that's great. And then, of course, have a look at the beautiful people here in the tiny Zoom images, joining us from all over the place today to learn more about the European training strategy, and not only. Great. I see some energetic faces, some stretched bodies. So I think we are ready to go. So with this, I'm going to invite Giselle and Blanca from SALTO Training and Cooperation to say hello and introduce the team and take us through the beginning of the session.
Thank you, Dani, and nice to see many familiar faces and names here on these mini screens, as Danny just said. For those who have been attending the spotlight on USPAS, you have heard and understood that SALTO Training and Cooperation, it's not that we are divided, but we deal with two different topics. We deal with the USPAS strategy and the European Training Strategy. So this is the other half of our resource center that we will share with you today. And again, really happy. But to tell you more about who is part of this second half of the Training and Cooperation Resource Center, I'll give the floor to Blanca.
Thank you very much. It is my great pleasure. I hope you can see my screen. It is my great pleasure to introduce our ETS team to you with a couple of words and a couple of interesting facts that you might not know about otherwise. So first, here you see our colleague Donata. Donata is currently on a maternity leave. However, she's part of the team, and here you can see her juggling, which is very important for her in the sense that she works as our desk officer and therefore has to juggle all the administrative tasks that are there in our SALTO and Training and Cooperation. She has been part of a circus group for more than 9 years and knows how to juggle, knows how to waltz on the unicycle, and all these things come in very handy and might lead to a career at SALTO Training and Cooperation, so good for her. Oops, I know, you can see it. Then we have here Tom. Tom is joining us soon, next week, as a replacement for Donata. And what you might not know about him, I could talk at length at how he got into youth work and so on, but I think it's much more interesting that he's afraid of spiders, and I'm really looking forward to Halloween time to play some practical pranks on him. And furthermore, he loves to watch animated movies. Next here we have a young Giselle. Giselle has been in the youth field for quite a while. So when the commission decided to start the SALTOs, she was working at a youth organization and was rather skeptical about what will they do, why are they not consulting us, who are these people? And now she's working for SALTO Training and Cooperation for more than 4 years. So you never know where life might lead you and what choices you make and where you might end up. And a couple of words about myself. I love Eurovision. Very easy. I think nothing expresses the absurdity and the diversity of Europe better than the Eurovision Song Contest. Here you can see me being very excited about attending the German pre-selection for 2015. I could give a whole interactive session or even 5 about Eurovision, but I think that would be a rather different event, so I will stop myself here. But I believe that, or I hope that other people join me as well in the celebration of this beautiful craziness that we are. Okay, that would be a couple of words about our team.
Thank you so much. It's always so fun to hear a bit more than we are able to see from working in a working space, right? To hear a bit more about who is behind this work, right? We are also very curious to see who is here in the room. Who are you, the people joining us today? And for this, we are going to use a Menti, as Michele was mentioning in the beginning. And you will have here in the chat a link that we will kindly ask you to access. All right, and then if you can share the screen, Michele, that will be great. Good, so first things first, let's see who is in the room. So we have put here some various roles that you may have, maybe one, maybe more. Choose those that are suitable for you. All right, so I see we have many trainers, facilitators, youth workers, NA officers or staff, and SALTO resource officers and staff. Hello to our one youth leader and our one policymaker and one other. Please write in the chat who are you here, and we did not put your role here. We would love to know. Good, many trainers and many youth workers. Coach. Great, let's move to the next one. Okay, getting closer to what we will be discussing today as well. Let's see if you have a MySalto account, if you're a happy holder of such an account. Yes, 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 across the line. So I see that everybody who answered has a MySalto account. Great. Let's go to the next one. Nobody dares to say no. As you all said yes, let's see how many years have you been the happy owner of this account. So you can choose from less than 1 year up to more than 10 years. Wow, I see there is a lot of experience here with using your Salto account. About 9.1 years to be more precise. That's amazing. Okay, that's great. 8.8. Let's move to the next one. Now, this is a tiny contest, okay? Let's see which of these activities, which of these ETS training activities actually exist as of now among these. So either comets, stars, or moons. So I see we have many comets and 2 moons.
Moons are just for you, Dani.
They're for me.
We know you like the idea, so.
I love moons, the moon, and of course, as many moons as can exist. And I see Salvi here in the chat agrees with me. I said exactly the same. There should be a moon training activity. Great. Well, let's consider both options correct. So one for the present, which is the comets, and the one for the future, we are going to advocate for it so that we have a moons activity sometime in the future. All right. Thank you so much for your answers. I see a lot of conversation here in the chat when it comes to possible moons activities and stars activities in the future. I think we are definitely getting somewhere with this. Good. So we got to know who is in the room, both from SALTO Training and Cooperation team, but also everybody who is participating. So I think we are ready to dive a bit deeper into the European training strategy and explore what does it actually mean, what and how, for who is it, for what does it offer to us, and so on. So I will ask Michele to bring forward Giselle and Blanca, and yeah, let's just start with the basics perhaps. I wonder if you could take us through a bit this name, yeah, so European Training Strategy, very, very big words here that we are working with. I wonder what is behind there and when was it created, and what for?
Thank you, Danny. We will have a couple of slides to show, but not so many. Rather to focus on having this conversation together. Again, I'm referring to the other spotlight and not assuming that everybody here saw all of them. There was nonetheless one with SALTO inclusion and diversity, where Tony has shown a drawing of this temple of training, or with the main structures or the main stakeholders that we have in the field, trainers, NAs, and there were a few others. And he was mentioning when the SALTOs were created, and it's true that back then I was skeptical how much that this also launched in a way the European training strategy. Back then it was not a document with a logo of the European Commission. It was not that structured, but this is in a way what came together with the mission of the SALTOs. And to support learning, to support capacity building, not only for trainers and youth workers, but also for national agencies, since our primary role as SALTO is to support the national agencies in implementing the programs. So we could say that the European training strategy is somehow 20 years old, but it's true that it's only since 2010 that it became really a strategic document with clear strategic directions, and we are now in the process of renewing the European training strategy. So it's a strategy that is not only about training as such, even though that's in the name, but it's really there to support the entire network in working towards quality youth work, or even more quality youth work, because there's already quality youth work. So yeah, I would say that's the basis, and that's the little history of the European training strategy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you. You were mentioning a bit about this renewal process earlier, and I just wonder what is the focus of this, and what are some of the new features that the strategy has?
Yeah, then I will share my screen so I can show you a bit of a words. Some persons here are actually member of the ETS advisory group. So there is a group that gathers youth workers, trainers, national agencies, and policymakers that guides the development of the and the implementation of the European training strategy. So Michaela is here, and she's part of that group, for instance. And we are reaching the very last step of the renewal of the European training strategy for the period 21-27, but I think it would be more correct to say 22-27. We have had a series of consultations with youth workers, trainers, and national agencies, and some of them are also here. To fine-tune in a way the direction and the features of the new European training strategy. So what you see here is how it is at the moment, but there might be a few adjustments that will be made in the coming 2-3 months, until we can really say, okay, now we have the final new strategy. ETS wants to be a strategic framework that has as a main vision the development of quality youth work. And by quality youth work, we mean a field of work where the main actors, the stakeholders, are prepared and equipped to sense, face, and address, respond the challenges and the opportunities for changes. These are big words, but they have not been chosen randomly. We really wanted to give dimension to, or to give space to the capacity of the field and the resilience we have seen also during the recent time, the COVID period, how youth work has been, of course, strongly affected, but at the same time, admirably taking action and moving on to respond to the challenges we still face. And by this, we also want to give, in a way, space to the future generation of youth workers, which are not in this spotlight, which are not yet working with us, but who will be coming in the future. So we want to prepare also the way towards that future. We have as an approach, as a main approach, to support competence-based approach in education and training of youth workers. So that's why you hear probably a lot about the ETS competence models that we have. The word competence comes back very, very often, but this is the main focus that we have, I would say. Maybe I will go a bit more further into that afterwards. But that's the vision that we have. That's the direction we want to follow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like youth workers are, in a way, the core target group of the European training strategy, the focus. What does it mean concretely, right, when it comes to how does that translate into reality? More trainings, tools, or what is it that you are working on?
Yeah. Maybe I mean, we could come back to the first, this question you had, like who is in the room, but nevertheless, I will show this slide that some of you saw already, that we use that for the consultations. That explains somehow the target group that we have, but also how we relate with the other stakeholders. For us, for the European training strategy, and that's the difference, for instance, with the youth pass strategy, we work with three main stakeholders that form part of a wider community of practice, which are the national agencies, and this is who we serve as a cooperation, training and cooperation resource center. And serve, I mean, we're there to support their work in the implementation of the Erasmus Plus and Solidarity Core. To do this work, we need trainers. There are many who are present here today. So we need trainers, because without them, we cannot implement, we or national agencies cannot implement their activities. So they have an extremely crucial role to play. And this is why we need to support them, to love is to care, and vice versa. So we need that target group, that stakeholder, important stakeholders to be able to then reach the ultimate target group of the strategy, which is youth workers. So this is really a bit the type of relations that we have with these different groups. But youth workers is indeed the target group of the strategy. And here you could see more or less I would say the different features or the areas that we will have in the European training strategy. There are several goals. There are 7 goals at the moment in the new ETS, but I didn't want to go too much into details, also not being fully sure who would be in the room exactly today. But nevertheless, this helps to get a picture of what we want to do. And when it comes to youth worker, what we mostly wish to have is to support its recognition of youth workers as a profession and of youth work as a field, and to do that through a competence-based approach. So we have that. You don't see, of course, with the background, but I have another slide. We have a competence model for youth workers, which has been developed in 2016 for youth workers who are active at European level. And this competence model helps to develop a series of training activities that we have for youth workers, and we will continue to do that. We will even take the chance to present one in a little moment. And recognition, this is a connection with Youth Pass, but not only. So we believe that we need to invest much more efforts into making youth work and the profession of youth workers more visible and better recognized. So in the European training strategy, we would like to focus now much more on developing standard courses for youth workers at European level that can hopefully be connected to formal education of youth workers in the countries where this exists. And in Ireland, this is already happening, for instance. And try to support this process. So there will be cross-sectoral cooperation there. There will be a number of activities and mapping and developing tools that can be used also in formal education, but coming from our field, from non-formal education. We want to also make what we do for youth workers in our field stronger. So it's not only about knocking at the door of formal education, but also capitalizing what we do well for a long time already. So in a nutshell, I think that's what I could say about youth workers for now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'd like to continue by exploring a bit the trainers, right? Because we have some trainers in the room here, and I'm sure many will be watching after this. And you mentioned a bit about the different opportunities that are offered as well for trainers. So just I wonder if you could go a bit deeper into that, Blanca, and tell us how does that look like, what's in it for the trainers, and what is their role within the European training strategy.
I would love to. Thank you. As Giselle already said, trainers are an important puzzle piece in the implementation of the European training strategy, both a puzzle piece and a target group and a mediator and a supporter, and are playing many different roles in that. On the one hand, as already has been said, they are part of the education of trainers, of youth workers, or the support of youth workers through the competence models, through the training activities that we have, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, we at SALTO Training Corporation see trainers as partners as well, that we want to support in their professional development as trainers. Therefore, we at the moment have a set of learning opportunities for trainers, all based on the ETS competence model for trainers working internationally. These activities, as they are right now, are summarized under the Trainer Competence Development Project, short TCD. And so for one, we have comets, as we have already seen in the very beginning. And let's see what happens with moons and stars in the future. Comets is a learning experience, as we call it by now, or training activity, where trainers, advanced trainers, come together and reflect on certain areas of the competence models that we have, to reflect on their practice and how they want to develop on that. We have the trainer skills workshops, which are shorter training courses, as well for trainers in the youth field, where they have the chance to explore more practical skills-based topics. They vary in topic, and so there's no real sequence at the moment of training activities, but we see what is coming up from the field of trainers, from the national agencies, where we see a need, and that's where we implement. We have From Knowing to Being, which is an experiential learning experience for trainers, where it mostly focuses on the attitudes behind of what trainers do in their work. We have famously the training of trainers, a long-term training activity, which now goes into its 20th or 21st year edition, depending how you see it, because last year, unfortunately, Corona made us cancel the activity. So this year we are actually going online with this training activity. And then every second year, there's the Bridges for Trainers conference, where trainers come together to discuss their work and see how to move on as an open space. So overall, this is our way, our at the moment approach to support trainers in their profession, in professionalizing, in developing their competences. With the new training strategy, we will see how we can further support that. We are working on a modular system for trainings. We are working on recognition, let's say it this way, of trainers in the field. So there's a lot of new things coming ahead. And I think that's all I would say about that for this moment.
That sounds exciting. So yeah, we've heard about youth workers, we've heard about trainers, and in a way, how do they come into the picture together with the ETS? Uh, I wonder if you could tell us a bit about the national agencies and how does, like, what is the relationship between the European training strategy and the work of national agencies?
Yeah, maybe before that, to add on what Blanca was saying about trainers, I was mentioning that we want to support the recognition of youth workers as a profession, but we also want to support the recognition of youth of trainers as a profession. We realized, actually, thanks to some who are present here today, that throughout the past years, many things have evolved in terms of giving space and visibility and recognition to some groups, but the way we worked with trainers in the past has actually not really evolved since the very beginning. So we realized that we needed to adjust the way we approach trainers, and that maybe 20 years ago, trainers were doing this as an ad hoc thing, you know, having something else, but doing training every now and then. And today it's really that they are full professionals that do that. That's their profession. And I think COVID made us understand that more. And this is also why we hope to have a system where we can make the work and the role of trainers more visible in our network, in our field, sorry, at least, not talking about other areas that would be too ambitious for now, but and connected to the work of national agencies. That's, as I said, the one of the three main groups that we focus on, and the one that we dedicate in a way our work to. We have, and that might be a bit too specific for those who are a bit farther from the work we do, but national agencies have their own activities that they organize. They have their own work plan, and all that is meant to support the implementation of the program. And for instance, we are supporting NAs in organizing spaces where these staff can meet to reflect together, to exchange together, to plan together. And that's the so-called TCA net, so for Erasmus Plus and Solidarity Core area of work and meetings. So we support that process, not alone. We have a working group to do that. Like youth workers and like trainers, staff of the national agencies also attend training courses. They also work on their competence development. So there is a so-called KMST, which is knowledge management and staff training. There's also a working group there. And SALTO training and cooperation supports that process as well. And finally, we were asking about the My SALTO account at the very beginning. This was not just for the sake of, but it's interesting to sense also how many of you are familiar with the SALTO website that Blanca will share a bit more about later on. But there is an intranet, there is a space also reserved there for national agencies to plan their activities online together through a so-called planning board. But so this is really also, it's not really a project management tool, but it's more planning tool, which will be further elaborated next year. So there is also their whole area. And this is how we try to support national agencies. But again, we don't do that alone. And for me, this is also where the connection with the other resource centers is very important. There is a thematic connection that we have to have, but we all are there to support national agencies. And this is exactly where I think our complementarity plays a role. But I would say that if you look at the picture you see now on the screen, this is what the ETS is about. So it goes really beyond training as such. It's really about connecting the different stakeholders in the field. The only group that we don't reach directly, it's young people, because we stop somehow at youth workers at the active at the European level, but of course they work with young people. Huh? So in the end, that's the end users of the programs, but we don't focus on that group directly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Indeed, all these elements come very beautifully together, and I just want to also open it up to people who are here with us. If you have any questions about what has been shared so far, please put them in the chat so that we can answer to them in the end. Okay, so we have been discussing a bit and painting a clearer picture around the European training strategy. And I wonder if, what else is there in a way, if you could share with us any other tools or any other things that would make the picture even more complete for everybody who is here.
I was wondering also.
Here are the young people with us. Yeah. Yeah, Giselle, if you would like to tell us a bit more about this. Yeah.
Yeah. There has been a shift, I think, in the way we also do our activities. I would say in the recent 2-3 years, where we really questioned about how can we work on competence development without addressing too specifically or too directly a given competence area. We have indeed competence model. Maybe I'll share quickly the screen again so I can just show you that slide at least. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. No, I cannot make it. But okay, we will put the links if they're not there yet on the chat. We have developed 2 competence models, one for trainers that was in 2014, and one for youth workers, which was launched in 2016. This competence model, that's what I was trying to show you, but with the virtual background, it doesn't work. This competence model is meant to be generic, so it doesn't go into too many specific or thematic areas. So for instance, inclusion or digital, or there are other NAs and other resource centers that work on that, but it tries to look at generally how a youth worker has to, what a youth worker should have to do his or her work as well as possible. So it looks very much at not only at the skills and the knowledge, but also at the attitudes that youth workers have, and that's actually the entry point in the way we work. And we were therefore thinking, how we could train, how we could implement this competence model, but without having to do a specific focused training. And this is how the Yokomo series of courses started, and there are trainers who are involved in this project here. Thank you very much. Yeah, exactly. Those are the 2 competence models that you can see. They are, by the way, being further developed now. We are adding the solidarity dimension in it. We are adding the digital dimension of competences in it. And upon the request of youth workers, we are also adding the competence area in the one for youth workers on the political role of youth workers. And by political, we mean the civic engagement. So that's political with a little p, it's not party politic. And all this is being finalized as we speak, and we'll also go for consultation to gather feedback and see if we are on the right track. So as I said, we started the Yokomo course, and Yokomo, there are no Spanish, I think, here, or Spanish speaking, maybe, yes, but Xavi is here, so you might know that it means that I eat in Spanish, but that was not meant to be the reason. The reason for Yokomo, it's youth workers competence model, and we developed this project with 3 courses, one focusing on competence-based approach, how to work with a competence-based approach. Another one looking at attitudes and behaviors, which is an important concept in the competence model. Salvi is one of the trainers of those 2 courses. He's here with us. And then we had a third one, which looks at a systemic approach to competence development. And this course for us was really an experiment, because we really tried to not to look at competences from an individual perspective. I developed my own competence, but look at competence in a much broader environment, and look at how all these parts interact together. And yeah, we have here Darko, who is one of the 3 trainers involved in developing and implementing this course. So I thought it would be interesting for us to hear a little bit more about that experience, what it meant, and the direction it's taking now. Yeah.
Thanks, Giselle. I hope I have 10 minutes to share. Yes, it was exactly, as you said, very experimental. To some extent, very experimental. On the other hand, it was a quite natural thing to do. Although I remember we had a trouble with the title of the course. It sounded quite abstract, I think, to the field, and wondering why don't we have enough applications for the course. So we had to postpone it, and then after rethinking the way we communicate about the course, we got enough people for the residential course. So far we did 1 residential course in Latvia just before the Corona times. It was March last year, maybe one of the last international events that we've done. And then after that, we did also massive open online course version. And as I can see, some people in the group here have been actually attending the massive open online course. So I hope it was useful for you, and I hope you're using the systemic approach and systemic skills in your youth work every day. Why it was so strange and natural at the same time? We struggled with the meaning of the word system and how to explain that to the youth work field on one hand. Since this word is not neutral, it's very emotionally charged, and depending from where you're coming from, you can really relate differently to the word system. I mean, you can already resonate in your body when you say system. Do you feel more positive or more negative, and how you feel about that word? People coming from very bureaucratic states like Serbia, that was former Yugoslavia, we know that actually system was always something outside of us, something that usually plays against you, not for you. And we actually had this difficulty to deal with the system, and very often we've been against the system. But in this context, we speak rather about a living system of living interconnections. And as I said, it's very natural, because youth work is actually very systemic by itself. Actually, you cannot do youth work without a system. You cannot do youth work on your own. You need young people, you need other stakeholders, you need municipalities, you need SALTOs, you need national agencies. So these all players are part of your youth work system. It's a living system of interconnections, that actually you are just one of the players. And in order to explain that, especially in the MOOC, we developed one whiteboard animation video that we would like to show to you now. And actually after the video, I will speak a little bit about what exactly we did with competencies in the course.
We all live in systems and belong to several systems at the same time. Your family is a system, a school class is a system, a project team is a system. Your youth organisation is also a system. All smaller systems are part of larger ones, like your local community, the field of youth work in your country, or, even larger, the field of European youth work. Every system has elements, connections between them, and its own boundary. When these elements come together, the system develops certain properties that belong only to the system as a whole and cannot be reduced to the elements that constitute it. That is why we say the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. For example, the chemical formula for table sugar shows that it is made of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. However, the sweetness of sugar is not a characteristic of any of these elements. It belongs only to sugar as a whole. Similarly, Living systems develop their own character, their own patterns of relationships and dynamics. For example, as a youth worker, you know how groups of young people can be different from individual young people that constitute them. What we experience as, for instance, a problematic dynamic is rather a pointer to a systemic need. We just need to know how to look. What we have learnt from phenomenological work, such as the one of Bert Hellinger, is that systems have several needs to be met in order to function in a healthy way. All systems want to be complete. Everything and everyone that belongs to a system needs to have its place in the system. Denying someone's place creates turbulences in the system's dynamics. For example, excluding a member of your team can create disruptive dynamics amongst the remaining team members. A system also needs to establish a good balance between giving and taking, between contributing to the system and getting your needs fulfilled. When this balance is established, the energy in the system flows freely and people are ready to give their best. When this balance is disturbed, it may lead to frictions, stuckness, and even burnouts. A system needs to be connected to its roots and to its destination. For example, a youth organization needs to keep the memory of the founders and the initial idea why it was established in the first place, and at the same time having a clarity of where it is heading to. Reaching the destination can be a call for closing the organization or for its transformation. A system also needs that everyone is in their own place, from which they can contribute the most. When some places in the system are not fully taken, this creates an unconscious trap for others in the system to step in somebody else's role. It is a commonly observed trap for NGOs to unconsciously take over the role of institutions that they see as not providing or incapable. In this situation, they should be asking themselves, whose role are we playing here? What should be the place from which we can contribute the most to the whole? By stepping into somebody else's role, are we strengthening or weakening the system as a whole? Are we helping or blocking the development of that element whose place we have taken? When everyone is in their place in their full capacity, the system stops wasting its energy on continuous negotiations and internal struggles, and can focus on its core purpose. For example, creating better opportunities for young people. To progress and strive, a system needs to remain open. Its boundaries should enable accepting new impulses and new developments from a wider context. The good news is that the capacity for self-improvement is inherent in each system. We just need to make sure that it is not blocked. A system that tries to keep the status quo in a fast-changing environment and that refuses to change will eventually dry out or make itself obsolete. A closed system declines and eventually dies. An open system develops and thrives. These external impulses might be changes in the world, such as the COVID-19 crisis, but also shifts in the wider professional field, for example, the changing role of youth work. A system can choose to ignore them or to let them in and welcome them as an invitation for change or transformation. It is the system itself, not the impulses, that decides how the change will happen.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So that was the video we used in the massive open online course to start a reflection about the meaning of system or the meaning of living system. What does exactly mean to look not just about organizations, but also about the field where you actually do your youth work. So one interesting thing with, I think, the Corona crisis, which a little bit with the end of this video is showing, maybe greater importance of looking about interconnections, looking about more interdependencies. So in a way, Corona is teaching us to look at things more systemically than before. Although, as I said, doing a youth work is systemic by itself, even if we don't call it, even if we don't use these names or terms or concepts to describe it. So what exactly we did in the course in relation to the competence model? So this was the title was Systemic Approach to Competence Development. And maybe I draw two drawings, maybe one that will be helpful. I take the SALTO towel down. It will be very useful for this summer, but maybe difficult to draw. So typical situation, I think most of us, we've been in contact with competence models before. So either ETS one or some other at work, or maybe national competence model for youth workers, for trainers or whatever. So typical situation is that you as a person, professional, you are confronted with a, let's say, a competence model. And typically this situation is when you and the competence model together, you look at the competence model and then you immediately look, okay, maybe I'm good here, but also I'm not good here. Maybe I'm good there. Maybe I'm not good here. And this situation, if you know it from before, situation of self-assessment can be a stressful one, can be something that you feel not very comfortable. Our friend Ozgehan from Turkey, he says it's a little bit like looking at the wedding pictures and looking at in which picture you were not taken very well. So in a way, taking more weaknesses, looking at more kind of difficulties than strength. So it's very often a stressful situation. Interestingly, in the course, in the evaluation, we get some interesting quotes asking people how it was for them to do self-assessment in the course. And one quote I really like is where one person said, it was so easy and natural to connect with the competence model. Which is a very strange sentence. I mean, to say that it's not something that you do every day. You wake up in the morning and you go to a competence model. It's very interesting. So actually what exactly happened in the course and how we ended up in that place was we didn't actually do that. We went a little bit what we would call detour. So we asked people first. So it was this moment first that actually before meeting the competence model. So actually in the residential course, we introduced the competence model maybe only on the third day of the 5 or 5 days of the course. So we did a detour. So we asked people first to reconnect to their system, to their youth work system before, in a very embodied way. So not just thinking about it, not just drawing like me, but really feeling what it means to be part of the youth work system, in meaning also seeing themselves as part of it. So in a way, by doing that, we believe we created a little bit a bigger context, like a bigger context for self-assessment than just me, myself, and I. So the moment when they met the competence model on the, let's say, the 4th day of the course, it was much easier. It was much more natural. So, and then the question was not like here. So typically here would be like, what do I want to develop? What do I want to improve? What do I need to do? And here the question is, what the system invites me to develop, what the system invites me to improve, what the system invites me to work on certain competencies. And being clear on your role in your system, then people who used the competence model there, it was more competence model speaking to them rather than they focusing on the competencies. Physically in the space in Latvia, we had these posters around the room, and literally people didn't go in looking at every single detail, but actually looking at what elements of these posters are speaking to them. So the big question was there, what my system invites me to learn, and then using the competence model just as a dictionary or something to name these kind of things. And as a result, really, we made it as a very, I would say, very natural and fulfilling experience for people there. And maybe last thing before I let the ETS people move forward, what we also learned a lot in this experimental experience is that competencies are not developing in vacuum. So I think I cannot underline that enough. You cannot sit on your own and maybe with your computer, but still you're interacting with YouTube there or with ETS webinar. So competencies don't develop in vacuum. You need other people in order to develop them. So in a way, maybe we need to rethink our logic about competencies. We think of competencies as little objects that we put them on our CV and we put them in our box and we go forward. But basically, competencies develop in these interrelations with parts of your system. So they're rather connections than objects. And that was really great, great learning. And we would like to continue this, and will be luckily next edition of the residential course, hopefully in Germany this autumn.
Great, thank you so much, Darko. That was really inspiring to hear, and I am sure that everybody here present also had things to learn. And please do ask Darko questions in the chat, because he only managed to get a little bit of taste of this cake to us, and I'm sure there is much more there that we could explore together. All right, so with this being said, we've seen indeed how some of these things are put into practice, and what are some considerations that you had to look into. Let's see if we could explore a bit together following this. What are some other resources or some other tools that people might explore when it comes to SALTO TC and with your part of the work?
And yeah, I was wondering, there was a question on Facebook. I don't know if we answer now, or if you want us to share the resources before.
We can ask. We can have them in the end. I think that's fine.
Okay.
I feel that this is my turn now.
Yes, Blanca.
To go ahead. Let's see. My plan is to just say a couple of words about what offers there are on the SALTO website. I'm a bit afraid that I might bore some of you with having SALTO accounts for more than 8 years. So I will do it quickly. Okay, just give me a second to share my screen. There we are. Yes. So this is our SALTO page as it looks right now. This is the landing page, and there it is a treasure chest of opportunities, but you have to dig a little bit. So I would like to give you some more insights on where to go and what to do. You can find here, I hope you can see the drop-down menu on resource centers, information about the various resource centers and what they do, and about their publications and activities they are planning, and so much more. A tool that is one of our most frequently used tools is the European Training Calendar, where you can find training offers for everyone active in the youth field, for all different kinds of stages of experience, from very beginners up to very advanced people who would like to exchange, share, have new influences. Here in the training calendar, training activities are both from national agencies and SALTOs, and from independent youth organizations. So there's a variety of trainings offered. Okay, now I have the problem that I cannot get to the next tab, because there's okay, wonderful. What we furthermore have, which is a very frequently used tool, is Atlas, which is our partner finding tool. So if you are a member of a youth organization and you either have a project where you need partners for, or you would like to join the project, you can search and find here potential partners. as well for all different kinds of activities, whether it be study tours, volunteering, trainings, key action 1, 2, 3 projects, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of options there as well. Furthermore, we have the Toolbox, which is a toolbox. Users from SALTO or from my SALTO are able to add tools for youth work in many different forms and ways, whether it is papers, whether it is instructions, whether it is games. So it's when you go here to browse, it's a huge variety of things that you can find there. As you see here, 220 pages of tools. So enjoy digging into this treasure chest. What else we have? We have HOP, which is our online learning platform, where more and more online learning experiences, activities are being hosted by national agencies and as well by trainers. So here you can find out a bit more about what is happening on HOP. And here you can find publications sorted through all the networks. And now I just realized that I did not open Toy. Just give me a second. There. Toy is a platform for trainers active in the international youth field, where either when you are an organization, you can look for a trainer, as each trainer adds their always as much as they want, their experiences and their fields of expertise. Or if you are a trainer, you can add your own profile there to be found as well. And I know that many of our trainers use this as sort of a business card as well online. Exactly. So this is what we have on the SALTO webpage and so much more. So please feel free to explore. Yeah.
Thank you, Blanca. And thank you all for sharing. This was great, and I'm happy that we already have a few questions. And I just want to use this moment to remind everybody that if you would like to ask anything, even if you could join us live and ask your question, however you feel like, please let us know in the chat so that we can have you in mind. Okay, so ready to go for the questions and answers. And so we received a few questions. One of them is coming from Facebook, and it sounds like this. Do you have any information or data about how ETS will influence competencies of trainers and or youth workers on local level, depending on the countries?
Blanca, shall I give it a try? Or the answer is no. No, in fact, I have to say that we have to improve our approach to monitoring the impact of the tools that we develop. We're into that, we're learning. And we had first already an attempt to see, first of all, how the competence models are being used in the network. So we did that 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. But it was quite complicated, because in the end of the day, we realized that many initiatives that are developed by trainers, by youth workers, or by national agencies, we heard of them informally. You know, this famous coffee break where you're outside having your coffee, tea, or whatever substance you want, and that you talk, and then you realize, but it's been used there, it's being used there. And in terms of survey and so on, we didn't have all the results that we wanted. And that was the first attempt. Now we know that REI, the network of researchers in our field, will have a project where they will explore the impact of training and therefore competence models as well on trainers. So they will not look at, and for that they normally survey at national level. I'm not sure how local this will go and how much we will be able to use that. But I know that this is a project they want to do next year, and obviously we are very closely associated to that. So I cannot really answer how it will impact. We hope that the competence models that we have are more a source of inspiration, something that youth workers or trainers can look at, but they don't have to follow. It's not a Bible that you have to follow from the beginning to the end. So we rather hope that this will serve as a source of inspiration. It's already being used also in connection with youth workers education, so with universities. So they are slowly, we can see connections, but in terms of impact, it's too soon to say, I think. Yeah.
I think that's the beautiful thing, that these competence models develop a life of their own. We are hearing a lot about it. That means a lot. We are hearing about initiatives, local initiatives saying, so yeah, so I just translated it the best I could and used it now in a training activity. That is beautiful. However, that does, as Giselle said, not allow us to have a monitoring or to have data in that sense. But still, these competence models are living creatures, and the ETS itself is as well. And it really differs greatly on where it trickles down and what impact it has. It's often, I believe, it is simply pushed by individuals who are somehow close to our work and then get deeper into this.
Maybe I can add that the competence model or models, they have been translated by several national agencies already, and it's continuing. That helps, of course, to make these models more accessible at national and local level. We're extremely grateful to trainers and youth workers who have developed their own initiative. They just took the model and they say, oh, that's interesting for me, and they developed presentations. They developed even other tools and assessment tools and so on. So this is really yeah, it's nice to see exactly that it gets its own life. What I wanted to add still is that we have for next year as a plan to organize a training course on how to train about the competence model so that at national level, organizations and national agencies can have their own resource person and do not have to count only on the 6-7 trainers who have been involved in the project so far, so that they can really in their own language, taking into account their own reality, youth work realities at local and national level, so that they can really tailor then the work around the competence model. I think that will probably have a wider impact then in that sense.
Thank you both. We have one more question. I heard in the chat here on Zoom, I heard somewhere that the competence model is being updated. Is it right? If so, when do you expect it to be released to public?
Yes, Thomas, that's true. We are updating them. So as I said, we are adding to both competence models the solidarity dimension so that it gets closer to the European Solidarity Core. And the digital dimension of competences. So it is no new competence area. These two dimensions are added transversally. Michele is one of those who contribute to the digital dimension in the competence model models. And this is drafted. This draft is done. At the same time, as I said, we are also adding the being civically engaged. I don't know if we will keep this title as well for the competence model of youth workers, so this political dimension, that's also drafted. There is a coordination team for the Yokomo project, because that's part of what we call the Yokomo project, who is also working now together with a German youth worker on developing a user-friendly version of the model, because it is complex if you read it at first, if you're not used to it. And she's now trying to visualize in a way the different areas in an easier way. And that's especially for youth workers who are starting in the field of international youth work or European youth work. And all this will go for consultation round in principle somewhere in September. So we count, or we hope, that somewhere October, November, we can have the new version, because we want to redesign it as well. Our CDI has changed, and we want to work on the design as well. So I cannot tell you exactly when, Tomasz, but somewhere I think October, November, which will also be probably the moment where the whole new European training strategy will be designed and ready as well to go out. Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Good. Thank you. Thank you for this answer. While we see if anybody has any more answer, I'll just ask Vanda maybe to share the screen so that we can see the graphic recording of the session. And in case you have any more questions in this minute, please write them in the chat or let us know if you would like to ask the question yourself, as we still have a few more minutes. I see the moons made it on the graphic recording. There is a movement happening here.
So you made it become real,
Yes,
Danny.
it started here.
Yeah.
Great. We've been through a lot. We've discussed about a lot of things today, and that just in 1 hour. Of course, we could have done it in a few days. I'm sure many of these topics could have been explored in much longer sessions.
Well, that's you, Blanca, there.
Yes.
Vanda, it's a wonderful
I
word.
love seeing myself in that way. It's really.
Somebody's asking us if we are going to share that graphic recording. The answer is yes. You will receive an email from Giselle and Blanca after this webinar. Good. So this is it, dear people. If you have any more questions, this is the time for it. If not, I would like to see if any of the people, if Giselle, if Blanca or Darko, if you have anything that you would like to share these last moments before we close it.
Maybe sorry, Darko. Or maybe you go first. Yeah.
No, I just, because you shared a lot of things in the chat, but maybe just I think some of them are really leaflets and some of them are really clickable leaflets. So I was chatting with Tomek a little bit about what we exactly did in a systemic course. So in the leaflet about systemic course, there are, if I'm not wrong, 10 clickable links or 12 clickable links. So actually all YouTube videos you can click there, and so it's more than PDF document. So that's just my invitation to keep these documents and explore.
Yeah, and in the other leaflets, so that's a systemic one. The other one that I also shared there, you can also see videos of youth workers who explain how they what they did or how they approach working on attitudes, for instance. So these are real people talking about their real work. So I also invite you to have a look. I wanted to say that for us, well, the European training strategy is wide, and sometimes it makes it difficult to really understand what this is about, and that it's much more than the competence model, but the competence models. But I have to say that compared to youth organizations or groups of trainers, we have this immense luxury to have a budget that allows us to experiment all the time, and we can fail and nothing happens to us. And I think this has an enormous value, because we can experiment projects like Yokomo, for instance, and what Darko said, it was a process and so on, but in the end of the day, even though it's still just starting, it really allows us to explore other ways of working, and the same goes for trainers. So I think this has a great value. I'm always very grateful for that, and of course for the people who are behind that, because it's not just our team of 6 or 7 or 3 or 4, or it's all the NAs and the trainers and the youth workers we are cooperating with. So it's also a chance here to say thank you for that.
Thank you. And it looks like an open invitation for future work and transformation and change, and doing it over and over again with everybody involved. Great. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It was lovely to have you here with us. We got to the end of our session, but I just want to use this moment to remind you, of course, that all this month we've been having these online sessions. They are resources for you to better know what the SALTO resource centers do and the work that they create that you can use and interact with it. So please check these resources online and continue being in conversation with not only SALTO training and cooperation, but all the SALTO resource center network. Good. So with this being said, I invite you all to open your mics if you want, say goodbye. And yeah, thank you for being here with us today. Be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye bye. Ciao.